Welcome back to another clay video. Today we are going to create Spiral Mountain from Banjo Kazooie. First things first, this is the map we're going to be working off of, and we'll be using this paper as a stencil to create all of the different landmasses in the right shape and size. The bulk of this map is going to be brown, so I'm going to cut a few blocks of brown clay into nice little thin strips and then roll them through my pasta machine. I haven't been this excited to make a map in a very long time. A few months ago, me and my brother played through Banjo Kazooie and 100%ed the entire game. Now, I played it as a kid, but I don't remember that much of it, and I don't think I ever got very far, because most of the worlds seem pretty new to me. So this was a pretty new, fun experience, and when I was playing it, I couldn't stop thinking of which maps I was going to create with clay. Although we're creating Spiral Mountain now, I'm definitely going to create at least one more map from this game. Now let's jump into the clay creating here. I'm using the paper stencil to cut out where the water is going to be, and like usual, I mix together very lightly some white and blue so we get these nice little swirls. After filling in the waterway, we can start working on these other areas. The first one here is going to be the farm patch, and our first landscaping work we have to do. Because we have this little ramp going up to the top. These can be a little bit tricky to do, but after a few times, I think I'm starting to get the hang of it. Now let's take some green clay and start creating the grass areas. This is why the paper stencil is so nice and pretty much essential. The last video I posted, I made South Island from Sonic, and this one did not have a paper printout, so it was pretty tricky to work with, and I gotta say, this is a really nice change of pace, being able to use these paper stencils. Although Spiral Mountain is one of the most iconic areas in these games, you surprisingly don't spend much time here. It's basically just a tutorial area, so essentially you're only spending 10 minutes in this area, but everyone just remembers it so well. Now, I know you've heard me say this throughout my videos, but I'm using some of this Hippie Crafter clay I got for a sponsor video like a year ago. This time, I'm finally using the last of it. It really is some pretty good clay, it's just, I don't really need all of these colors, and I'm probably never gonna use half of them. So I figured it's best to just use them as filling and just finally use them up. This clay is at least 2, if not 3 years old, and it just gets so dry and crumbly. I'm not going to spend an hour trying to soften up one block, so I'm also going to use some of this. A lot of times with my maps, I'll make them all out of clay or I'll build them on top of a wooden block, but I've never made something this dense with clay. This ended up being so heavy after it was completed. I'll even show at the end of the video how much it weighs. So basically we're just forming out the landmass of everything, leading over to the waterfall here. Now is when we take these brown sheets that we rolled out at the beginning of the video, and we just start coating everything in them. The hardest part is just blending together these seams and getting a nice smooth finish. I just want to take a second and say I am in fact going to start posting weekly videos. I did this for a very long time consistently, and then I just kind of fell out of that and my uploads were very sporadic, but I want to get back to weekly videos every single Saturday. So I look forward to seeing you in these new weekly videos. Let's break out the green clay again and start coating all of this stuff we just covered in brown. Sadly for this, we don't actually have the stencil to work with, because everything got a little bit bigger than the stencil after covering it with all of the dirt. Over here we can chop out a little section that is going to be for the waterfall. And on this little section where Grunty's lair is, we will do a little bit of a darker green. Now there's a few little platforms going up to the waterfall. Well, this is just a small waterfall, there's actually 2 of them. And surprisingly, you can't go behind the waterfall. I can't be the only one that always looks behind waterfalls when they play a video game. It seems like, especially in the N64 GameCube era of games, it's almost a requirement to put something behind a waterfall. But I'm not complaining. Honestly, I love it and it really doesn't feel overused. I'm using this technique I made up of smearing some white clay around, and this just gives kind of a moving water look. So everything was going super well at this point, and then disaster struck. I broke my thumb. I figured the best thing I could do is just bake it and I'll continue later when my hand is better. 3 months later, my hand is healed and we can get back to this map. A very important part of Spiral Mountain is the Spiral Mountain, and it's something that you don't want to get wrong. And this is exactly what I did. This is very wrong. I tried a few different methods to create the spiral and it just wasn't working out, but I came up with this idea of using kind of this long triangle, and it actually worked out really, really good. So let's coat this in some grass and plop it into the water. Now the first area we're going to work on is the area with some stumps. And the ground in this area is covered in some vines, so using a ton and a ton of little green worms, we will create the vine pattern on the floor. Next, we will work on the stumps, which are very simple, but I think they turned out pretty good. Let's get those all into place, and let's move on to our next area, which is these little rocks. Again, like I said earlier, this area is sort of like a tutorial area, so each of these little sections kind of gives you an idea of how to play the game. It teaches you new moves, and if I remember correctly, you have to destroy these rocks to get a honeycomb piece. And honeycomb pieces are what you use to increase your maximum health. Over here, we're going to create Banjo and Kazooie's house. Which, I guess, kind of lucky for us, it's just completely flat against the wall, so it's actually not very hard to make. Let's add a nice little chimney onto the top, and let's get this into place. Now we can work on the farming patch that I mentioned earlier, so let's use this ball tool and start creating some little lines for our plants. Up here you fight this carrot boss. Well, I guess it's more of an enemy, it's not really a boss, but the map started to get very crowded with everything I put in it, so I opted out of making the few enemies that are in this area. After the path is complete, let's work on the tall yellow grass that can be found around this area. You can walk through this grass, so it's just a nice little environmental detail. To actually start the game, you go into Grunty's lair, which is a giant stone statue of Grunty, which is the main and final boss in the game. Let's hollow out the area where the cave is going to be, and we can smooth it out with our ball tool. Now let's add in some eyes. Okay, not really. We're gonna put in some nice looking eyes. And this is going to be the top of the hat, but we're gonna bake it separately because there's no way it's gonna stay together. Finally, some nice glowing green eyes, and we can work on the top of this, which basically looks like a castle. Finally, let's add in some crooked windows. I went ahead and baked these 2 pieces so we can glue them onto the already baked part of the map. Now there's a few bridges in this map, so let's create some basic bridges. The first one is a very long one going from the mouth to the spiral mountain. And finally, we have a tiny little one over here. Now, I'm going to create a few things that need to be baked and then attached on with some super glue. The first thing is going to be some trees. I feel like I say this way too often, but this is the method that I use to create trees. I just roll together a bunch of balls and it makes a nice little treetop. Next is going to be some little mounds of dirt, and this is where Bottles, the mole, comes out of and gives you hints and also teaches you new abilities. I picked up some of this Sculpey gold clay because I've just always been disappointed with Femo's gold. It just really doesn't look gold, it's more of a bronze color. So I'm happy I found a nice soft workable clay that is a really nice gold color. Let's get our molehills into place. And now we are ready to get baked. Okay, so after baking, we can start using some super glue to put everything into place. Starting first with the tree trunks. Let's add in the tree top. And now a few of the locations where you can find some of these honeycombs. With our final honeycomb in place, here it is! Spiral Mountain from Banjo Kazooie. I hope you all enjoyed the video. This was super fun to create, and I'm really excited to create another map from Banjo Kazooie. Let me know in the comments which map you would like to see, and also any suggestions for other maps from other games. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.